The title is Reconstructing Early Medieval Monasticism. Around the year 830, there were three monks, one named Erlebald, one named Heto, and the other named Rengenbert. And they were living on the island of Reichenau, basically along Lake Constance, in Lake Constance, on the German-Swiss border. And they made a plan, and they sent it, a monastery plan, and sent it to Abbot Gosbert in the Swiss Abbey of St. Gall. There have been a spate of archaeological projects investigating Western ascetic communities during the 6th and 7th centuries. And they've shown this plan, produced in territories under Carolingian rulers, transformed architectural history. These 9th century Carolingians invented an enclosed world where distinct groups separated by gender pursued learning and prayer. And these communities of monks and nuns could never leave. And they were guided under the leadership of an abbot who lived in a specific residence, which is appearing on the top of this slide, that shows that royal power and the power of abbots was coalescing. Monastic architecture intersected with and diverged from the villas of the elite. And this space for monks, called a mansio abbatis, had ample space for feasts, and even in an earlier age, actually 400 years prior to the production of this plan, we learn about a prototypical monastic community in a letter written by Paulinus of Nola to Sulpicius Severus, talking about a villa, saying, "You play host in your house. Your house is like a hostel. You live as a fellow servant with the young staff." And this is the root of these 5th century, this is the 5th century root of the 8th century communities. In these communities, there were gardens that flanked the refectories that accommodated up to 100 people in the St. Gall plan. In this view of a real monastery, archaeologically reconstructed, there are 6 archaeologists who could fit within that space with their arms outstretched. But within the monastery, as shown in this plan, it was an ideal world. And there was a garden at the center, a cloister garden, that was organized in such a perfect mode that it corresponded with the culture of learning that can be seen here in a manuscript that shows a poem in honor of the Holy Cross that is organized around the figures who succeed one another, such as patriarchs in the lower left and going all the way through martyrs in the upper right. By turning to real monasteries, such as one of San Vincenzo al Volturno, which is located near the Italian city of Benevento, over 30 years there have been excavations that have done here that allow us to know that there were, for example, on this site, spaces for and elite facilities for where the elite guests could dine. And this, together with other evidence, such as the evidence for a Roman tower that was probably used by the monks on this site, and this was used during late antiquity, but later on in the 9th century, this was the space that provided a residence for the abbot. At other monasteries, we learn that these towers were the spaces where the abbot could have lived. So at Farfa, which is about 40 kilometers east of the city of Rome, we can see that there is evidence for 9th century Carolingian architecture, but the appearance has changed over the years, and it is only thanks to archaeological reports and other kinds of investigations that we can learn how it looked. So there is also a tower that still stands at Farfa that hints at the exclusive realm of the abbot, that allows us to understand that the idealized version that was drawn in the St. Gall plan also has some analogs to real space. In a 6th century villa, one at Sévillac in the Aquitaine region of France, we can see rooms surrounding a courtyard garden from a villa that had inspired the monastic garden that we'd seen earlier, multiple bath facilities and numerous hearths indicate that many families lived together at Sévillac. But not all the cloister gardens were necessarily rectangular. For example, an 8th century cloister at Sentiola's monastery from the city of Sentiola, it was actually designed by Engelbert, at Saint-Riquier, shows the experimentation of the Carolingian world. So there have been a lot of efforts that have tried to reconstruct what the St. Gall plan envisioned, which was an ideal, based on making physical models that are rooted in what had been drawn. So I'm showing you here, for example, the abbot's house together with other spaces. My research, which I am about to pursue on, so this is a new project, envisions using digital reconstruction that looks at the archaeological evidence of real sites and combines this archaeological information to create a digital reconstruction showing texts from these monasteries, including the rule by which they lived, and also uses extant information together with digital reconstruction and mapping to allow you to move through the spaces of the monastery. The idea is to look at real spaces that show the reality of the world in which Carolingians live, that is informed by the ideal of the St. Gall plan, but also brings out how there was a textuality to their lives, because these were real centers of intellectual inquiry and intellectual exploration. So the spaces that they inhabited are rooted in both texts and archaeological information. Thank you.